Hi, everybody, and welcome to Faces in the Field. My name is Adam Darengowski. I work with the communications team here at Miller Pipeline. Faces in the Field is where we highlight the efforts of one of our teammates making it happen out on the job site today. That teammate is Cody Mieth. He's a foreman out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Cody, thanks for coming on.
Good to be on, man.
Well, first of all, I always like to get everyone's backstory. So can you kind of take me to the start of your career in construction, but also maybe touch on how you made your way to Miller as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was shortly after high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do the college thing, so it was kind of just really it came about. My uncle worked down in a different area and just shot me a text one day. He's like, "Hey man, if you ever want a different job opportunity, then I got something for you," and kind of gave me a little runaround about it, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." So I got in, did my interview, and here we are, man. It's been 7 years now, so it's been a long journey, but
What were some of the main selling points that kind of piqued your interest about a career in this industry that your uncle sold you on?
well, honestly, it was just something different. I've always been interested in working around machines and being hands on. I could never see myself as being somebody who'd sit down at a desk all day and so working with my hands was one of the things. Obviously, the opportunities that opportunities are endless. It seems here. So, however you want to farther you want to take yourself is really it seems kind of how it is, and that piqued my interest a lot. So it was just one of those things. Plus, I was young. It was like, man, I seemed like I had really good benefits. The pay was really good, so it was like this is a perfect opportunity for me.
Yeah. Starting off as a laborer, I mean, I'm sure you had probably worked with your hands in some capacity prior to this, but what was the hardest thing that you had to deal with coming on as a greener guy in this industry?
I mean, it was a lot to learn at first. It really was, and you always have it in the back of your mind. You're working with natural gas, so it's like this isn't something you can get complacent with. You can't, this is a big deal. It seemed, and you know, dealing with certain foremans, dealing with certain people that are training you, and you kind of pick up on good habits. There's obviously sometimes you pick up on maybe that stuff that's could be bad habits, but I think just picking through each little thing that you learn from different people was the good thing and the bad thing also. So
Was it hard to do that at times? Because like when you come in not knowing a ton, it's hard to disseminate what's the good habit versus the bad habit. How did you go about maybe figuring that out for yourself? Was it just trial and error?
yeah, it seemed like a little bit was trial and error. What worked for me, because certain things that work for certain guys may not work real good for other guys, and just picking through that, and then also getting through to a foreman that had been here for a long time, and some of the things I had learned from other crews. It's like, hey, that's not how I want it done, and there's always a quicker and easier way to do things. So it seemed like getting with a guy that had been here for a long time really helped out with that.
Yeah. Now you made that transition from not in the industry to in the industry, and then I think 3 years ago you get promoted to foreman. What
Yes.
what was that transition like? Because I imagine it was probably pretty equally jarring in terms of all the information that you had to take in.
It was a whole new ball game. I mean, I always felt like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. And you never really are until you're just thrown into it. And it's like, hey, it almost feels like a sink or swim moment. But really, I mean, I learned from the best. So it was like it was pretty easy to step into. Once I got in and kind of got, the ball rolling on how I wanted to do things as a foreman and my crew, and kind of teach the guys how I wanted things to be done. It kind of made it nice because I could kind of mold our crew into what I, kind of envisioned for myself being a foreman.
Yeah, was there a moment, because I know you mentioned that you always think you're ready until you're thrown into the fire. Do you remember that moment where you're like, okay, I've got this as a foreman, things are going well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It was funny because I kind of knew I was going to be getting the position before long, and then I had to sit down with my superintendent, and it was like, hey, next week this is the plan, and I had a whole weekend to kind of to think about it, and I was like, I've done the work, I know the work. I'm making it harder on myself being nervous. I shouldn't be nervous. I know what I'm doing. And then, when it comes around time and, I got my first job as a foreman, and it was kind of a tougher job, but it was like, hey, I've waited for this. This is what I've wanted. So I'm going to make it happen.
Are there some skills that you either already had and they can be like technical skills or soft skills, or that you had to develop that you found have really benefited you as a foreman?
I've always been kind of, very particular. I want everything to be planned out. Even my wife kind of says stuff when we go on vacation. I want everything planned out before we go. I don't want to be on the fly. So I think the planning aspect of it, planning out a job, that's definitely helped me. Um, in high school when I played football, I was the quarterback, so kind of leading a team, kind of already had a little bit of that leadership skills, but there was definitely a few things that kind of surprised me, but those two things I feel like definitely helped me out. The planning out and the leadership was already kind of there, I feel like a little bit.
Yeah. I'm curious, you mentioned we have a lot of former athletes that for some reason they just seem to get the way things work out on the job site.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What translates from athletics to pipelining that makes sense?
I feel like even though, athletics and pipelining's a lot of different in ways, I feel like when it comes to communicating with the guys and the way we kind of, jaw back and forth and kind of mess with each other, has a lot of similarities, but really it's a teamwork. I mean, one guy can't go out and do all the job by himself. So you got to have, a laborer, you got to have a fuser, you got to have the foreman. It all meshes together, and whenever you can mold that into something that works really well together, that's when you have your really good crews. And that's kind of what I was striving for when I became a foreman.
Yeah. I'm curious, you guys obviously do a lot of really impactful work that oftentimes goes unnoticed because it's buried, for
Right.
50, 60 years. What do you find most rewarding about what you do on a daily basis?
That was one big thing that I kind of also piqued my interest when I started here. I wanted to do something I felt was making a difference, and when winter time rolls around and you got all these people that need gas or need heat, and you feel like you're helping out in a certain way, or we did a big job for a hospital and to up their volume of gas that they were getting, and you felt like you were kind of doing something a little bit there, and so it's kind of rewarding at the end of the day, especially when you have a long drawn out job and you finally get it done. And it's like, man, I feel pretty good about my work. I feel pretty good about what we did. It's something like you said that stays in the ground for years and years and years. So you want it to be good, and you want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the other things that kind of falls on your shoulders as a foreman is the safety protocols and the
Right.
safety of your crew. How do you maintain that as a priority among your team on a daily basis?
It's just making sure everybody goes home the same way they came to work. So all your fingers, all your toes. It's very easy to get complacent out here, and you go days and weeks of doing the same stuff, kind of stuff different, and then you get that in the back of your head, like, oh, we've done this a million times, like, what could happen? And just when you start to think that way is when things can go wrong. And I've had firsthand experience myself on things that have went wrong, and I got hurt on the job, and it wasn't too serious, luckily. So, but you when you go through things like that, it definitely wakes you up, and you got to slow down and stop and think, hey, what all could go wrong? And I think that's where going over the JSA in the morning and going over all the aspects of the job you're going to do for that day kind of helps the guys understand a little bit, especially new guys.
Yeah. Well, to avoid that complacency, we often talk about like what we live for, what we go home to that makes us do what we do. So I'm curious, Cody, like what do you live for? What keeps you going?
Well, first and foremost is the family. I'm married. My wife and I just had a son in January, so we had our first kid. I got dogs at home, cats at home, and those are the big things. But just things that you do outside of work. I love hunting and fishing, watching sports, just spending time outdoors, spending time with the family. It's all things that I live for and can't wait to go home and see and be a part of.
Yeah. Well, Cody, I like to finish every Faces in the Field with some rapid fire questions. So I'm just going to toss them at you and you just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good, man.
All right. Let's start with favorite season to work in: spring, summer, winter, fall.
All for sure.
Yeah. Not too hot, not too cold. Are you a text, call, or email kind of guy?
Depends, but mostly text.
There we go. And then July 4th's coming up. Are you a hot dog, burger, or something else at the July 4th cookout?
Definitely got to be a burger.
Love it. And then what was your career highlight in your high school football career?
We went undefeated one year, and that was probably the highlight for me. And it was, I actually, sorry, I know this is a longer answer, but I broke my leg the year before and missed all season. And so when I come back the year after that and we went undefeated, that was a pretty good highlight.
Yeah, I bet. And then finally, what's your favorite core value and why? Is it safety, quality, commitment, or reputation?
I should probably say safety, but I feel like quality, man, all of them are really good, but I'm going to say quality is probably the one for me after safety. Just because taking pride in your work and making things good, look good, and feel good it all feels good, man.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, he's Cody Mieth. He's a foreman out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Cody, thanks for coming on Faces in the Field.
Thanks, Adam. It's good meeting
All
you.
right. Absolutely. He's Cody. If you want to join his team, be sure to visit MillerPipelineCareers.com. We have all of our job listings, and the application is there as well. Also, be sure to follow us. We post jobs, industry news, everything on social media, so be sure to follow us there. This has been Faces in the Field. We'll see you next month.